I'm going to speak a very controversial message for a little bit, and allow me to speak a very controversial message as well. One of the things that makes Christianity very difficult is that we don't often appreciate the human experience. Truth is not subjective, truth is stubborn. Instead, we know what we know because it's true. I get frustrated even on social media because sometimes, as a person who have invested the larger part of my life in the study of the Word, I've invested over 24 years of my life in the study of the Word. So when I'm preaching to people, I'm not speaking from a place of, I think. I'm speaking from a place of truth. It's stuff I know, stuff I've invested my time in, stuff I've invested years of study in. And so I'm speaking from a place of authority because it's true. The problem is, I am not never truthful concerning the human experience. Human experience is subjective. We experience things differently based on where we are. As much as I don't appreciate or honor homosexuality as an example, and as much as I don't acknowledge it as a way of living, it is somebody's valid life experience. I have no power, neither do I have the right to take away from that. It is part of a human experience. However, it's not necessarily true. Being true doesn't necessarily correlate with being human. All of that stuff is very different. There are certain people that live lives that we don't approve of, but they are the experts in their own experiences, not the experts in the truth that we know. So when we are preaching the word of God, I want to remind Christians that there's a very big difference between truth and the experience that other people have. I may not condone homosexuality. I may believe that it is a sin because it is scriptural to believe that. So I stand on the truth of the word, but I'm not invalidating the experience of the person. Your experience is true in itself. I have no idea what it's like to love another man in that way. It's not something I've ever experienced or known. However, it's an experience that is familiar to someone else. And so I honor the experience of the humanity of what you are feeling, what you're dealing with, what you're experiencing. But it doesn't negate the truth of what we are teaching and knowing as well. I believe that this helps us, particularly preachers of truth. And I'm talking to preachers of truth. This should help us in how we dispense truth, in learning to be fair, in learning to be open-minded, in learning to understand, in learning to appreciate, and learning to honor other people's truthful experiences. That I get how you live. I get what you are experiencing in your life. I get what you're struggling with. I've never had to deal with anger. I don't know anger like that. I've never hit my wife. I've never laid hands on my wife. I can't empathize with you hitting your wife at that level. I don't know what it's like when that surge of anger boils your blood and you just see red everywhere. I don't know what it's like to struggle with lust and you look at a dress and you struggle like, oh my word, I see that. I don't experience that experience the same way you get it. I know this person is beautiful and that's great and my day goes on. For someone, that stops the entire function of their mind and everything comes down because of the distraction that is in front of them. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that experience, but I honor the experience of what you are going through as a person. I believe that this conversation is so important. It took me years to learn. Helped me to actually get to a point where I can be in the same room with people that are vastly different, vastly in our lifestyle, in how they live, in what they do, to understand that, wait a minute, we're not necessarily at odds. I'm preaching a truth that I know, and you are preaching an experience that you know. And there needs to be a balance between this. But the balance comes down to one thing, and I shared this on another message a couple of weeks ago. It comes right down to acceptance versus approval. We don't need to approve every single human experience that people have, but we can accept people for who they are. Learning to say, I see you as a person. I recognize that you have an experience that is valid for you, but my truth is this. And so I can separate between loving a person to not approving or not accepting a certain type of behavior from you, and having to learn to love people in spite of that. That's hard. That's very difficult. So I want to share this message with you all, particularly Christians, to remind you that there is such a thing called a human experience. It's hard to explain to other people who've never experienced what you are. And even though people know, and people are struggling with this, some people are struggling with sins, some people are struggling with all of these things. Don't worry, I'm not those grace preachers who say, no, 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 we need grace, we need grace. I'm saying we have to learn to put clear distinctions in between what we understand to be truth and what we understand to be the human experience. That's the most important thing.